What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Skype again, and this time we are here with Heinrich of the Almighty Screamer. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Alex. It's gonna be a fun time, this.
Yeah, it's going to be one hell of a time indeed because we got the brand new album Kingmaker coming out very early in 2023, as early as January 13th. With the making of this album, was the intention to just make a continuation of what we heard off of Highway of Heroes, or was this meant to be like a new beginning for Screamer in a way?
This is the continuation of Highway of Heroes, I'd say. This is kind of like what we, in a bit, aimed for with Highway of Heroes, but we got something else that we really liked. So this is the continuation, and it's a bit different, but you can hear all the elements in this one as well. People that knows us, they can instantly, this is Screamer. To the new people, they're just like, okay, Screamer's kind of good. Everyone's going to be happy with this one. I'm quite sure of that.
I definitely know that that's going to be the case. Do you feel that with the, I heard the album and it's absolutely kick-ass, but for people who haven't heard the full-length album, do you feel that the first three singles that you released, Kingmaker, The Traveler, and Hellfire, is maybe a good representation of what all of Kingmaker is going to sound like, or is there a lot more to be discovered in it sound-wise?
There is a lot more to be discovered, but I think if you boil down the essence, you get that in those three tracks. We have Ashes and Fire. I think you can say it's our first epic song. And then when you're just gonna wanna bang your head through the wall, you have Burn It Down. It's full on speed metal song. But we focused a lot, as per usual, on the guitar melodies and to get the kick going, because whatever we do it to play the live shows, and we want to try to communicate that feeling. Even on a record, it's hard on a record, but this is going to be a few bangers for a live set, that's for sure.
Definitely. I've noticed that like it has every what I call it has the high pitched smorgasbord with like it has like maybe your 80s classic metal vibe to it. It has sort of like that power vibe behind it, the epic vibe behind it. Basically anything with a high pitched voice is it's a smorgasbord for Screamer.
Very, very fair. Though we don't really do the high pitched vocals like a lot of other bands do. We try to keep the mid going. But then Andreas pushes through from time to time, but we don't want to do the falsetto metal. We want to do really good hard rocking heavy metal tunes.
Definitely. And like that whole high pitched term is such a vague concept anyway. It doesn't sound like Judas Priest or King Diamond or Journey, so like
a little bit of both, all three of them, I think.
Yeah.
Perhaps not as much King Diamond. I know John really loves Andy LaRock and his guitar playing in King Diamond, but yeah, I think you can get the elements from basically all of those. We're a modern heavy metal band, not in the sense that we sound like Evanescence, but in the sense that it's 2022. Obviously, we have all those references and influences from the past, but we're trying to carve our own path going forward. So we don't want to do an Iron Maiden song, even though it could be twin leads, and sometimes, since it's a studio record, it can be the triple lead harmonies.
Yeah.
It's, of course, we all love that, but we try to carve our own path forward in all of this. We do not ever want to become a tribute band. That's the aim.
Yeah, of course. And you guys are definitely not a tribute band. And even though I do see like a lot of classic elements in it, because there is no denying it, I definitely think that you do have a lot of your own identity. And when you look at the evolution of Screamer, going from Adrenaline, Distractions to Phoenix to Hell Machine, Highway of Heroes to now, was this the evolution that you were always seeking for Screamer? Was this always the vision in a way? Or has, this been a very like improvisational or roll of the dice sort of journey?
Both. Like, there's been a focus, but there's also been like, let's write songs, let's see what it turns out like. And it's a hard one. I feel that with the first two albums, we were young, we were hungry. We're still not old, but we were super young and very hungry, and you could just bam, 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 and bang out the songs and go tour, go crazy, 150 down the highway. But then when Andreas, our singer, joined the band in 2015, and we started writing for the Hell Machine, there I think was the Screamer Mark II. That's when we actually took 3 steps back, started to like reflect, okay, what do we want to do? And then we have good choruses on the first 2 albums, but Andreas lifted everything a few levels up. And then on Hell Machine, we were trying each other out. It's like, and we did that. It's self-produced, self-recorded, everything. But then for Highway of Heroes, it's like, okay, we did this and this with Hell Machine, but we want to boil down the essence. Then we started working with Gustav Hjortsjö from the Swedish heavy metal band Bullet as a producer. He lives in the next town over, like 20 minutes from here, and gave us new tools to make us progress naturally. And then from there, he was unfortunately not available for Kingmaker because he was tied up in other projects. But then it's like, okay, what did we learn with Gustav? We learned a lot, so much. It's like, kill your darlings, get out of your comfort zone, don't do the same thing all over and over and over again. It's like, there was a really good mindset that we learned from Gustav. It's like, okay, what are we gonna do now? So we went to Gothenburg and tried out Jacob Herman from Top Floor Studios. He's a Swedish drum wizard, and he produces and he records. So we went out to do pre-production with him, and then we were like, okay, this is definitely next level. We don't know if we're ready for this level, but we're gonna try it out. And then when we left after the 1 weekend, we did pre-production for, I think it was Kingmaker. What's the song's word? It was Kingmaker, Sons of the Night, and I don't know, Fall of Common Man, perhaps. Then we went back and was like, last thing Jacob told us for that week was like, okay, now you guys know that you're not as good as you think you are. And we were like, yes, we know. And then like that gives you could take it the negative way, but we were like, okay, we need to work. We need to put the work down here.
Yeah.
So with the tools we got from him and we had from Gustav and from our own, we think like, okay, this is very natural. Now we can keep going with what we're doing.
Yeah.
So as I said, it's both a jammed out experience, but it has over the years also turned into like we're quite focused with what we're doing now.
If you have a producer who just tells you everything you want to hear the whole songwriting process, fire him. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to pay someone to agree with me. I can agree with myself, and that's for free. It's it's always good to have someone. They can agree with you, but they also, when they like the last sentence said, this is so good, you guys are doing really good, but it could be a lot better if you do that. And then you're like, okay, he's not agreeing, he does not agree. And I was like, then you have to start, and the machinery in here starts spinning. And I think for us as a band, the process that we're going through has become a lot more fun in the creative way when you actually get more tools. You can go and study music theory. That does not necessarily mean that you know how to write a song, or you think you can, but then when someone else comes from the outside, it's like, but you should try to do like this. And sometimes like, no, definitely not. And then it's like, that person is so right. Okay, we can listen to him, what he has to say about another 2 or 3 songs. Okay, do you want to do the entire album with us?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And you make perfect sense of what you said too, because I noticed like going from Adrenaline Distractions to Phoenix, and then you get to Hell Machine, there is kind of like a big evolutionary jump between that. But in terms of the idea of what you want an album to sound like with the, different elements you bring in there, is there, with the making of each album, a preconceived vision in a way? It's kind of similar to the question I asked you before, but does every album have its own approach and its own unique element, or is there a strategy that you have that applies to all the songwriting you've done?
I think that now with Kingmaker, we have finally arrived at the position where it's not just mindless songwriting. It's perhaps in the start when we do the demo skeletons for the songs, but from the start on this album, me and Dayan went down here on I think Christmas in 2021. What year is it now? In 2020, and started like we carved out like the 5 first tracks. And it's like I guess you could see the songs that ended up on the album if you listen to that, but in the same way, no, because we had these visions like, okay, we start with this, and then on this album there will be no compromises with the time we spend on writing the album, with the production, with who's recording what, and album artwork or anything. So now when we did everything exactly how we wanted, instead of, oh, you have this and this budget to do this, and we were like, we didn't even have a record label when we did this album because we wanted to do what we think is the best that we could do before we actually even tried to get it released, because we weren't on a deadline from any label. So we did it. So this time it was very focused, and we had a really good plan. And I think for the next record after Kingmaker, now we have landed. We know how to do this. We did everything remotely online, basically, because it was COVID and everything. And it worked out so well, because then you can actually get a couple of days of reflecting and thinking about what we're doing. And then you can come back with your feedback. I don't like that. Can we try that? Okay, my idea was not that very good. We go back to the original thing. It's like, but you can do it in a constructive way instead of spending a weekend, say 30 hours in our studio here, and actually not getting anything done because you can't distance yourself to what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
So I think we have that going for the next record. I think now we know how and what we want to do consistently.
As the drummer of Screamer, do you prefer to have music already there before you start laying down your parts of the band, before you start laying down the beat, or have you ever had a whole drum pattern written down that maybe the band could write over?
Back in the day, we jammed a lot, and if you had any ideas on the drums, then like, I want this vibe. Like Burn It Down on this album is one of those songs. And me and Dayan were just like, yeah, but I want and think we need a song that goes like this. Like really punky, but still very metallic. For me as a drummer, it's more about providing and feeling a vibe of what we're doing to get things pumping, or rather than doing... how do you say that in English? Extraordinary super tech drumming. That's of absolutely no interest whatsoever to me. That is, it rarely serves the songs.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, look, I love, as a huge fan of like technical death metal and all that stuff, I love it when, somebody's going like 300 or 400 BPMs. But I think for a live rock and roll band, simplicity is one of the most organic sounds, and like you don't need, I think if you try to go too crazy with it, it could end up defeating the purpose of what the overall song serves.
Yeah, exactly. Like a tech death band, they need to do what they are doing, but as you said, for rock, hard rock and heavy metal, it's except for perhaps the guitar solos and the singers, I don't necessarily think it's that much about the individual. It's about the songs and perhaps more the band. You need to have ripping guitar solos, and you have to have a singer that can bring in the crowd or bring in the listener. But in terms of just being super techy on the drums, you can do things with finesse. That's different. That can be a lot harder than playing fast a lot of the times. But I think more of it as a collective, but you need the peaks on stage or on the record. You need to have the shredding guitar. You need to have the soaring vocals, whatever. You need that. but I don't necessarily think that the world's fastest guitar could ever write the best song in the world.
No, I mean, you could be as good of a guitar player as Randy Rhoads, but a good song is a good song, and a good solo is a
Exactly.
good solo. They're called different things for a reason.
Yes, very fair.
Yep, and you know, like I love to like when I have a discussion with people and they be like, "Oh, that band is just a rip off of this band, or that band sounds just like that band." I'm like, "Okay, sure, you're not wrong, but a good song is a good song. Who cares what it sounds like, right?"
Yeah, exactly. I think it has it's a big thing. People really have to compartmentalize everything, and I think that's a bit of a problem. I think for this run here, it's been a lot of fun because we haven't gotten comparisons with, we got referenced to like the older bands, but now a lot of the got to steer the storytelling as well. It's like, yeah, we like those bands, but we are doing our thing here.
Yeah.
Like obviously we have every record of those bands. We are fans. We're hard rockers. Like yeah, but we're doing our thing here, and we don't necessarily need to hear about 5 questions about how much Iron Maiden means to us, because yeah, obviously they mean a lot, but if you listen to it, we don't write songs like they do.
Yeah.
Not even near. We have some elements, but we don't write songs like they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have more in common with In Flames Clayman, because that's when we were super young and started hearing the late 90s and early 2000s, like, oh, this is what twin guitar leads sounds like now when it's not Iron Maiden. Like,
Yeah.
That's where we grew up, and with Hammerfall. Hammerfall and In Flames, yeah, Renegade. It's basically the 2 bands that wrote that album.
Yeah, of course.
So, everything merges, and it's like everything progresses, and it's like, yeah, we love that old band, but that new band over there doing their own thing is absolutely amazing. It's like, I think Sonia is amazing hard rocking heavy metal, but there's no Iron Maiden in that, but they're carving their own way, doing their own thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a matter of how a band evolves. Like, sure, like maybe you could start off copying or, taking, being obvious about what band inspires you. But when you grow and develop, which occurs naturally, that's how all these bands eventually become different. You're right. You guys don't sound like Iron Maiden or anything like that. But I think that there is kind of like a scene in Sweden where that, like a band like you guys and Nestor, for example, that's a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like I feel like you guys have, like, you're a new generation in a way where you're bringing in like a classic element behind it. When I went to Bandit Fest in Stockholm this year, like it was.
Okay.
Yeah, were you there?
No, Stockholm is too far away.
Okay.
You're from New York, I guess. It's further away for you.
Yeah, but when I went to Bandit Fest in Stockholm this year, there like a lot of those bands had those classic elements in it, but none of those bands were, most of those bands started at the earliest 2010 or something like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes a record or two. Besides, I know Nestor, but they have been carving out their plans since their 80s, so
Yeah.
I guess that doesn't count.
Yeah, of course, bad example right there. But like a lot of the other bands, like Sister Sin was on that bill, and they have a different they have a classic vibe, but very modern twist.
I saw them this summer, and I've never been to a show with them before, but I went to a festival down here in the south called Time to Rock, and it was their like farewell tour, and it was so good, and that's heavy metal as heavy metal gets, but it's their thing. It's a bit modern, but it's not modern, and they do or did their thing, and yeah, they were amazing live.
Yeah.
And after that, I know, because when we started out, they had already kind of like started to become a thing, but it's like, no, I was screamer focused. I didn't listen to it 6 years ago, but now I went back and listened to it like, okay, yeah, this is good songs are good songs.
Definitely.
You can't get around that.
Yeah, but has anybody ever thought, I gotta ask this, it's a very silly question, but has people heard the name Screamer and just assumed that you guys were like death metal or black metal or even metalcore for that matter?
Yeah, They have, and that's why it's super important to have a logo that really,
That's
no,
readable.
this is not death metal. This is heavy metal. You can see it on the logo. Okay. And you need to bring in this aesthetics around that as well, I think.
Well, I could read your logo, so I already know it's not black or death metal. So
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. And I have two more questions for you. One of them is continuing talking about drumming. Is because I interviewed a couple drummers about this topic. Most notably would be Justin Foley of Killswitch Engage, and we were having a discussion that a lot of people assume because drums don't have melody in it that they maybe lack emotion in a way. But I think that is totally bullshit. I see the energy that drummers put into the fierce and the fire that goes into it. So please, just help me further discredit that bullshit accusation.
Yeah. Ooh. No, I think for me, drumming is all about communicating and emotion. And even though I don't play like a guitar player on my drums, but if I would not present like, okay, here comes the pre-chorus in a boom, bam, boom, boom, ba dum, da dum, boom, 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 down. That sounds really fucking dumb. I know. I'm a drummer, so I speak drum. But if with that introduction, if you don't think that we're communicating emotions and moving stuff forward and laying down the entire vibe for a song with the drumming, then it's like, okay, try that with a drum machine, and then you will understand the difference in things.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention drum, like when we hear a heartbeat in a way, that's a rhythm in itself. So
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
drums if anything are like the nucleus of how emotion is born.
Yeah, but I think like, rhythmics in general, we work. Now I'm going back to like talking about the album, but it's a lot of that. The singer just does the long notes on everything, and it's not sharp with the rhythmics. And if I, as a drummer, can't emphasize what the singer is trying to communicate, then I'm failing at the drums because I need to emphasize what the vocals do with the markings or how to present an upcoming chorus. Everything has to work together, so it's just as much a musical instrument as anyone else, as all the other instruments, other than just being like the beat or the pulse. It's so much more
Of course.
in my world. But I'm a drummer.
Yeah, of course. And finally, just what does the future hold for Screamer in the future? We got this brand new album, Kingmaker, coming out. You'll be starting 2023 off on a fantastic note. Is there just what else could we be expecting from Screamer in the future?
You could expect a world tour in 2023, Euro tour in April, and then some festivals, and then nothing official, but the plan is to cross the pond once again, trying to hit up the east of the North Americas this time, which we have been over 2 times this year, but we only made it as far as Midwest and Chicago. Then we ventured back west. So the east is coming up this year or next year.
So please come to New York. We would love to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick. We will.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Screamer Kingmaker out January of 2023. Be sure to pick that up. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.